everybody. It's Ketwolski here, checking in as I rock my entire desk with a versus discussion. It's myself versus, you guys may know, Trek on the Tube. He's joining me here today. We're going to be discussing the deleted scene that was featured at WonderCon 2018, just maybe a couple days ago, earlier this week, if that. And we have polarizing views on this particular scene. It's a 2-minute scene, but it really affects season 1, and it's going to affect potentially season 2 on end. So it's a very powerful and important scene, but very short and kind of interesting. So we decided to do this because, like I said, we have very polarizing thoughts on it. And before I turn the video over to Sean for his introduction, I do want to go ahead and preface all this saying that we will be doing some spoiler discussion. So if you haven't seen Star Trek Discovery yet, or if you don't want to know what this scene is about, be sure to click off of this video and go check out another one on either one of our channels featuring Star Trek. So with that being said, Sean, I turn it over to you.
Hello. I'm assuming if you've seen the scene and you're watching this debate, then you've probably seen Discovery, but spoilers nonetheless. I am Trek on the Tube. I am Sean from Trek on the Tube. I have a channel that, reviews Discovery episodes and talks about Star Trek in general. And I happen to be a friend of many people in the YouTube community. Starfleet Boy, Ketwolski, Trekker Prize, Tricky Rob, etc. And yeah, it's interesting that our views are so polarizing on this because Nick and I have had pretty much, I would say to some certain extent the same opinion on Discovery so far, except for maybe one episode, not now and then. And this 2-minute scene has divided us completely.
Yeah, I would agree. Our opinions, if you watch some of our other discussions over at Starfleet Boys channel, our opinions pretty much line up on all the other episodes for the most part of what we like and dislike. But we have come out of this 2-minute sequence having polar opposite reactions. So with that being said, I say let's go ahead and jump right on into it. So so let me go ahead and set the stage of what the scene is. I'll go ahead and quickly describe it, and then Sean, I want to hear your thoughts on it, and then we'll kick off the debate from there. So the scene takes place, again, it's a 2-minute sequence. It's just Michelle Yeoh's character, Empress Georgiou, the one from the Mirror Universe. She's apparently running the brothel that is in the Orion district on Kronos. It was featured in the finale of Star Trek Discovery. She's running the show down there. An individual disguised as a Trill approaches her. She immediately pegs him for a quote-unquote Federation person, and he says that he is not Federation, that he is, in fact, Section 31. He kind of alludes to the fact of what the organization is, how they operate, how they have a low moral compass, and how they view the galaxy as a big threat, and they need to monitor those threats. Michelle Yeoh's character during the sequence is kind of acting rather disinterested and kind of standoffish, as she probably would as someone from the Terran Empire kind of operates and interacts with folks, which is very standoffish. So they kind of banter back and forth for a few minutes, and then he goes to leave, but he leaves a little box on one of the bar tops near her. As he goes to walk away, she gets up from her chair to go check it and opens it up, and inside it reveals the glossy black badge that we saw in episode 3 of Star Trek Discovery. And the individual that once she opens it up, the individual turns around and says, "Welcome to Section 31," and then he walks off, and then the scene ends. So that's I think I hit all the key points on that. It's a really fun scene to watch. I got it on the internet. Go watch it if you haven't seen it. But yeah, so Sean, what are your immediate thoughts about this sequence when you saw it?
Okay, before my immediate thoughts, I want to say something about this because I am troubled as to whether this is like a deleted scene, because they officially called it a secret scene at WonderCon. So this has me thinking, is it an actual deleted scene, or is it like kind of like a post-credit scene as a la Marvel that we're having currently with the MCU? Is this like a post-season scene? They just wanted to finish the season on the Enterprise, and then they gave this later on. Is this technically part of the canon of season 1? Or is this a deleted scene? Is this official or not?
I would say it's official. And the reason I say that is we are unofficially waiting until 2019 for season 2 to really kick off, or chapter 3, or whatever the hell they're going to call it. And it wouldn't surprise me if their intention wasn't to kind of filter in a few scenes like this between
Hmm.
now and the time the next season launches in order to
Okay.
continue to build the buzz. So I
Fair
agree. I
enough.
think it's a bit more of like a secret scene, like, hey, and I think we might even see a few more of these
Okay.
as we progress.
I have the same opinion, but mostly because the actor that plays, he's kind of like a Colin Farrell type guy.
Oh, you mean
Um,
how he looks identical to Bullseye from the Daredevil movie? Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah.
yeah, no. So this Section 31 Trill, the actor is confirmed for season 2.
Oh, I didn't know
Uh,
that. Okay.
so to me, this is kind of like a, yeah, it is. It's a post credit season scene. So I mean, New Frontiers.
I was about to say that's trailblazing. That's a separate conversation. That is trailblazing, though. If they're doing that, they're actually going to do it that way. But yeah, that's different.
Okay, so my initial reaction was so first of all a bit confused, is like what actually am I watching?
Mhm.
And then when I finished the scene, because it's very quick, I was like, yes, this is awesome. Oh my god. I was very troubled by the way the black badges were never addressed again in the entire season. I have problems with the black badges themselves, but that's another discussion. I just didn't like the fact that they just kind of forgot about it. It felt kind of weird to close so many stories, close so many plot lines in the season in such a kind of rushed way, and then just not do this one. I was like, why? And it also kind of pissed me off that they left Georgiou, the Emperor, just leave and do whatever it is that she wants to do. I found that kind of risky.
Mhm.
So granted, this scene doesn't really justify why Starfleet chose to do that, but it does, I suppose, explain a little more of what's going to happen to her or where she could potentially go, or at least it shows that she's not kind of no one, even in the prime timeline. People know about her. People want to work with her, and so to me, simply put, the 2 minutes that it was added to the season in the sense that it closed two plot lines that were shaky to begin with, yeah, granted,
Yeah.
but it closed them and it gave me closure on that. That's why I liked it.
So I actually think the opposite. I think it just ripped open. I think it just ripped it open worse. So I think the whole thing. So for those people that don't know, in episode 3, there's a throwaway scene where Michael Burnham just arrived on the Discovery, and she sees somebody in the hallway wearing a Starfleet uniform with, their away badge or their away combat armor, and they have a black badge on. Very obvious, very plain as day. And there's like a little sentence of like, what's that? And then they never go, like you said, they never go back to it. Everybody knew that that meant Section 31. Section 31 loves black, they love leather, they love all things clandestine like that. And I feel like the fact that there was a Section 31 operative operating in plain view with a Starfleet uniform, even though they're very much not Starfleet, makes no sense. And this is established, even if you remove all the other shows, this is just Discovery canon. They have established that a Section 31 officer was operating on the Discovery in a Starfleet uniform in the open. And then at the end, where they have this throwaway sequence, this special deleted scene, the guy clearly says, Colin Farrell's Bullseye clearly says that we are not Starfleet and we operate in the shadows and we do what we got to do. But we also happen to wear these super identifying black badges. I feel like that just they were trying to tie the whole thing together, like give it a curtain ending on that sequence and that situation. But to me it just caused me to ask more questions, which is why did nobody ask what was going on with the Section 31 officers when they went into the mirror universe? Like, were they still on board? Had they left? What was even? And I've asked the Trek writers this on Twitter several times. Like, can we please just get a timeline of what's going on with Discovery? Like, how much time has really passed since the beginning of the war to the end of season 1? Like, we don't really know 100%. We kind of got a rough estimate, but I mean, those Section 31 guys would still be there in my opinion. They wouldn't leave the ship. So we never talk about them, but they're a clandestine operation, and yet they still operate out in the open. And obviously, Colin Farrell's Bullseye is terrible at his job because Georgiou spots him immediately and is like, "You're not a Trill. You're some, you're some Federation dude." And he's, "Well, I'm not Federation. I'm Section 31. I've got a whole collection of black badges here to just hand out to people, And it's just,
I think he is official. I think he is an actual Trill. I just think
you.
she spots him as being Starfleet, and then he says, "No, I'm not Starfleet. I'm Section 31." But he is a Trill. He's not like a disguised human.
I thought that when he deactivated that thing, his little, you couldn't really tell though, like the things disappeared. I thought that's what that was.
Oh, maybe I missed that.
Yeah, it was super subtle, and I don't think the effect was finished, so I just looked not so good.
Okay.
I'm not faulting them for that because again, this wasn't a production scene, like it wasn't shown, so I'm not getting on them about the visual effects. Um, so
It
that
doesn't change anything. Be it if he was a Trill or a human, it has
right,
no
it
impact
doesn't. Right,
whatsoever.
it doesn't. Yeah, none whatsoever for my problems with it. And the situation with Giorgio, like I don't see like Section 31 following her and keeping her on a watch list makes a lot of sense because she's a potential threat. Her desiring to even think about working for a clandestine operation, I just don't. I don't personally see that because I also don't personally see why she was. I truly believe that she was just wallowing. That's why they were emphasized in the sequence. She took 3 shots in the sequence. In 2 minutes sequence, she had 3 shots of liquor. And she was avoiding him, and she was wallowing. And that to me was not the forward thinking woman who just the episode before was attempting to blow up Kronos and take over the Discovery and probably take over the Federation if her plan hadn't been foiled. That was probably her ultimate goal at some point. So for her to go from that to I'm just gonna sit in the seedy bar and just hang out, like why wouldn't she start up like a criminal empire or something? Like I don't know, like any like you know what I mean, like anything or tell
Okay.
I don't know. But anyway, so that's me. That's my problems. So
Okay.
what are you thinking? What are you thinking there?
Um. Okay. So going back to the badges, what I immediately thought is the guys in the hallways wearing the black badges. They're not actually Section 31. They are just Starfleet officers. How could I put this? This ship, this Discovery, is a huge ship, and it's got a lot of kind of under the radar, maybe not officially sanctioned experiments going on in many labs. So there are labs that probably are Starfleet affiliated, and there are some other labs that I would assume Section 31 have kind of taken over, and they're doing their own shady stuff in there. And I kind of get the feeling that there's like a deeper layer to this in the sense that the Section 31 has actually like kind of designated these various officers and given them black badges to guard these rooms, but these people don't actually know they're working for Section 31. They think they're just working for like a higher ranking officer for Starfleet. They think they're just part of the Starfleet hierarchy, and they have to stay and guard the room. They've been given a black badge for whatever, but this is useful for Section 31 to know who their people are, who they've got kind of on their payroll, even if they don't know about it. So
So
that's what I thought. I thought it was even deeper than it would be, like even more sneaky. That's what I thought about the badges.
okay, so is it possible that Section 31, whether it operates under that title or not, on the books, on the payroll books, as you put it, is it possible that they have some things like actually on the books? Like maybe they have security guards that are maybe they're even working for
Um,
Section 31, but Section 31's got also Black Ops sections that nobody gets reports on, and that's it.
but I mean, okay, so using Malcolm Reed as an example, he was Section 31 before, but then he went like full Starfleet. But then they still try to, so it kind of fails because Malcolm Reed in Enterprise doesn't really go back to Section 31. He realizes that their moral compass is kind of off or like too exaggerated.
Yep.
But for a time, he is still kind of sharing information, going behind the back of his captain, talking to Section 31 in Starfleet uniform. He still is the chief security officer, like tactical officer of the ship.
Yeah.
So, I mean, being almost a criminal organization, or at least a shadow organization, they kind of have no really, I would say, structure in the way they work. Starfleet, you can kind of say, no, that Starfleet should be working this way or that way. Section 31, you can kind of excuse, it's easy writing, and because you can kind of excuse whatever happens just by saying, yeah, well, they don't respect anything. And even I mean, seeing how many admirals and how many captains in Starfleet go against the rules of Starfleet, I would assume that the people working for Section 31 are even more crazy. They all have their own opinion on how Section 31 should be run and what should be happening with it. And for all we know, there was someone working for Section 31 that thought Discovery was a good place to hide all this stuff. But then he died in the Klingon War. And then, damn it, you know? It's like,
yeah.
Oops.
So you
and these guys on the ship, they're not officially Section 31. They think they're working for some Starfleet officer, but they're actually working for Section 31. But they never get any more news because the guy's dead, right? So they just continue doing their job. You know, they're doing what they can, gathering telemetry, whatever. But I mean, they were just hired there to keep people out of the rooms or the labs, and the labs don't really have any importance or impact on the show anyway.
So my thing is like this. So we're sitting here talking about, essentially kind of crafting a bit of fan fiction around what's going on with the black badges. But I know you said that you like the fact that this deleted scene, this extended scene, put a nice little dovetail on the scene that we saw in episode 3. But can you agree though that if the sequence in episode 3 hadn't existed, that this sequence that we saw at the end of the season would have been easier to stomach and easier to understand? Like if they just didn't have the sequence at all in episode 3.
I'm going to agree and disagree. No, it wouldn't have been easier to understand for me, but it would have been better. Simply because the first time you see Shinzon in Nemesis, he's talking to one of his guys, and then they do the big reveal in front of Picard.
Yeah.
Why? You should have revealed him as you revealed him to Picard, and we would have all been shocked at the same time as Picard. But you've already revealed him before. He's already talking to some guy. So it kind of spoils the fun. This is kind of the same thing. If they don't show us any black badges, and if they didn't, name the ship 1031, if they didn't register it like NCC 1031, but
right.
And we had no reference to Section 31 whatsoever, seeing this scene would have been mind-blowing, because we're like, oh my god, Section 31, they're still around, because we know they were around from Enterprise, and we see them later on.
Yeah.
In DS9, I think it is, because I don't think we get them in TNG.
Yeah, no, we only get kind of rumors in TNG, but yeah.
It would have been mind-blowing to say, oh my god, they're around, and then it would have been like super hype for Season 2, like, oh my god, we're going to get a Section 31 plotline in Season 2. We were all fooled in the beginning of Season 1, but then Season 2 is actually going to bring it. So I think it does take away from that scene, the fact that we see the black badges in episode 3, but I don't think it makes it harder for me to understand. I just justified it that way in my kind of own fan theory crafting that I do. But I mean, I do that for a lot. And in Discovery's defense, I don't just theory craft for Discovery. I do that for every show that I watch. Every time I see a character on screen in any show, Star Trek or not, I'm like, and I kind of start thinking of his backstory and more things. But yeah,
it's just frustrating for me, because it just seems like we could have avoided a little bit of the confusion if they had just waited for that black badge reveal. Or I would be curious to see if there were more sequences throughout Season 1 that wound up on the cutting room floor that featured the black badges operating in the background, but were still kind of being like a mysterious hand that was moving certain chess pieces across the board during the Klingon War or something like that.
It would have been interesting to see that, like, you learn that the reason why Georgiou was actually put in command was because of Section 31. They thought it was a good move. Like, Section 31 put Georgiou in command, and Section 31 thought that the radical idea of destroying Kronos would be awesome, because I don't see that coming from Starfleet, even in time of great despair. That's just not the Starfleet or the Federation way of doing things. But having, like, Section 31 kind of maneuver that, but they still have time to retroactively kind of fit that in Season 2. They can still write that in.
They could, yeah. And actually, that would have been a bit more of a fun thing, because then that could have shown up. Like, say, for instance, she was just assigned to like Starfleet intelligence or something like that, and then she slowly poisoned that organization from within and created Section 31, or kind of brought whatever Section 31 was even further down into more unscrupulous kind of activity that ultimately culminated in guys who enjoy, kind of torturing their potential operatives that we see in DS9, and
The leather suit guys that
right, leather suit guys, which makes sense because Georgiou always is wearing black leather, so she's making all of her subordinates wear
those
black
Section
leather.
31 agony booths, right? But
That's right. That's right. So that would have been interesting, and we still may see that. Like you said, they still may put that in there, and she may poison the organization kind of from within and bring him down even further, which could be an interesting. I wonder if that would be kind of the plot point of further seasons, which is maybe the Discovery crew versus Section 31's operating arm that's now under Georgiou, or maybe she goes rogue with a bunch of agents and they have to hunt her down and they feel responsible because they were the ones that brought her from the mirror universe. I mean, who knows? There's a lot of ideas there that they could use. I just really wish that we had only seen the black badge at the end of the season in this little tidbit scene, because that would have been blowing my mind. That would have blown my
well,
mind.
that would have been better. Kind of like in a directing kind of way. The way you want to direct your series or show run your entire series, you kind of don't want to have these small reveals because they take away from your big one if it's concerning the same kind of theme.
Yeah.
Unless you're really doing like a Ash Tyler kind of VOC where you're gradually showing how bad his condition is getting, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would have been more interesting, but I don't think it takes away from the season. This has problems with or without this scene, and I think they remain the same. I don't think the scene enhances the problems. Concerning Georgiou, which you hate to see her wallowing in a bar.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me. My initial thought when the season was over was like, oh my god, they're leaving Emperor Georgiou on her own. She's just gonna go and enslave another race, and then come back to Starfleet with like an army and then take over. That was my initial thought. But then when you think about it, she's just an old lady, isn't she? She has no power. She has no influence. She has no army. She has no weapons. She has nothing in the Prime timeline. So acquiring a bar in the first week is already pretty awesome. To me, she's just going to try and accumulate some wealth. She was trying to get some money. Yeah, she was kind of wallowing in her troubles there because she just lost an entire empire and a universe. But to me, it made sense that she would just be at that kind of starting point. And I don't see her as a diplomat. People in the Prime timeline use diplomacy. They use I mean, to a certain degree, trickery, whereas the mirror universe doesn't really seem. It seems much more straightforward. They will trick sometimes, but it is
clever. Yeah,
much more straightforward, and I don't think that kind of way of thinking will help her a lot in the Prime timeline, especially trying to take over people like. I mean, the Orions are geniuses when it comes to just capturing people and selling them off, and they don't really care about who you are, and she's no one in the Prime timeline.
Yeah, I think so.
She has phaser skills.
She does. She does have.
So she's got phaser skills. She's got like a sword. Well, she doesn't have a sword anymore, but she's got mad sword skills. So I mean, she can fight, which means I'm pretty sure she'll just never die. She'll never get killed by anyone. Well, except if L'Rell takes a finger off the bomb. But
don't get me started. Don't get me started. So.
But then it made sense to me. I do agree that it is kind of weird that Starfleet itself would just leave her there. It's kind of a risk. It's a risk leaving L'Rell, there with Kronos, and then leaving Georgiou on the same planet as well. I mean, everything is kind of weird, and then they all go home and get medals and pat each other on the back, but. Yeah, I mean, as I said before, these are problems that already existed for me in the season, and that scene didn't really enhance. It was just nice to get closure on these two specific plot points. Georgiou, kind of know what's going on, and the Black Badges, at least they weren't just there for absolutely nothing. because even if they had introduced Section 31 with black badges in season 2, even without this scene, you still would have had problems because of episode 3.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Uh, but my thing with Georgiou is the few episodes where she was on the Discovery and kind of wheeling and dealing with Starfleet Command and Sarek about how to deal with the Klingon problem. She just seemed way more resourceful, and that to me, like you said, like she's got mad phaser skills and she's a really good swordsman.
Hmm.
But my thing is she was a schemer a bit. Like, and she knew how to kind of press people when they went, into doing things that they really didn't want to do, which is what she did with Starfleet Command and with Sarek. I, to me, that level of resourcefulness and her drive, I guess I would say, was kind of overdone a little bit. So that when you juxtapose that with someone who's just getting drunk at the bar, who she probably murdered the original owner and took over the bar,
Mine.
right, for sure. And it's just like I just feel like I don't know. I just feel like she wouldn't just be doing that. Like I feel like her resourcefulness would extend beyond that. Like I really do feel like she would already be making moves with what's
Is it
going on
is it easier to
Kronos.
is it easier to scheme though when you're in like Starfleet facilities where you've got access to information, officers, you've got ship logs, what have you. You've even got ships. Whereas as opposed to this, she's just like in the Orion district, on some sort of crappy place on Kronos. Maybe it's like difficult to get out of that. I mean, less opportunity, maybe.
That's true. And again, I'm willing to concede this point a little bit to give her the benefit of the doubt, because again, like it bothers me because I feel like her character would be doing more, but they don't really explain how much time has gone by.
Yeah.
This could just be the next day, and if it was the next
Yeah,
day,
well, I took it as if like this was kind of like so after the award ceremony, which I suppose happened within the week, and so all of this happened, and then so Section 31 got their act together. Like, okay, this happened, these people got awards, this is
yeah,
going on. We're going to Section 31. Oh, we're going to Kronos.
yeah, I got you.
We're gonna check out what's going on with this Emperor Georgiou. Does she exist? Is she still there? What's going on? Or well, they know she exists because they have operatives, or at least people that don't really know they're working for them, but that kind of are on Discovery that would have seen her. So
Yeah, I do believe, just to now as a side comment, I think that there is at least a Section 31 operative on the Discovery,
hmm.
not
Well, there
walking
would
around.
be. It's a very important ship.
Right, right.
I mean, this issue was never dealt with in the original series, but I would assume that um, how many Constitution classes were there? Because it was the Enterprise, there was like 12 total when they're going out there.
Yeah, there was quite a few.
I would assume there's at least one operative on each of those ships.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
I would agree. At least the
because
one
even
that's
if it is deep space exploration and it's not necessarily dealing with like the Federation matters, when you have a mission like something going on like Journey to Babel,
yeah,
it's nice to have someone there just checking out what's going on.
for sure. No, I agree with you 100% there. But there's a lot of different things that they could do with the plot thread. I mean, my mind's kind of racing with the Section 31 thing. Like they could take the Section 31 thing and redo sequences, because right now my big problem with the whole reveal in episode 3 is the fact that none of it was addressed um, in the Mirror Universe arc, which was they were there for a hot minute. They weren't there for like an hour. They were there for a while. They were there for quite a while. And that nobody ever talked about the Mirror Universe. But they could go back and redo sequences of maybe showing us what maybe Section 31 operatives were doing during that time. Maybe they were up to something, and maybe we just weren't aware of it because they were dealing with the murder mystery of Dr. Culber, and everyone was all heightened alert, and then everything that happened with Lorca, just maybe they just slipped off the ship and nobody noticed. Who knows? There could be a lot of different things that they could do there with that stuff. Um, I don't know. It's just I don't know. it just feels like to me when I see this sequence, it just feels like this scene would have been really cool if they had just left everything else out for Section 31, or explained more about the organization. Like if we got more details about it, and maybe understood, like you were saying, like if they have some folks on the payroll of Section 31, and maybe that's why they've got some folks with the black badges, or maybe all Starfleet intelligence officers wear a black badge, and that way you can't distinguish between the different organizations. So maybe that was just a regular Starfleet intel officer, but you don't know the difference between that and a Section 31 operative just by the badge. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, if at different divisions of the FBI, everyone's got an FBI badge, you don't get to tell the difference between an undercover guy and a regular guy, just
Mm.
based off the badge. They don't have undercover FBI badges. You know what I mean? Though it's like, so it's so it could be something
Special
like that.
FBI.
Special, super special FBI. Uh, so
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't know.
Or
It's
like
just
a badge that unfolds like FBI, super secret, special.
special Section 31. Yeah, that's right. We're coming for you. With leather. That's right. Yeah, damn. Yeah, yeah, it's leather. Yeah, super tactical leather that they wear. Uh, so I don't know. It's just so to me again, like this sequence. I would actually, and again, what's funny about this sequence though is again that I would actually say that I've talked to more people and had more conversations about this 2 minute sequence than I had about most episodes of Star Trek Discovery.
Ooh, that's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, so most people I showed this sequence to had seen it, um, and I actually got more positive fan interaction on YouTube as well with comments and messages and things like that in regards to the sequence than any other episode or review that I did in regards to
Okay.
Star Trek Discovery. So people seem to really be interested in this sequence. Like it seems to really spark up interest. And so on that front, I can't fault CBS. They did a really, whether their intention, I believe their intention, but whether it is to continue to release a couple more of these leading up to the next season. If that's their intention, like they're doing a good job with uh, building up the hype because it's definitely a polarizing scene and it includes a lot of things. You got more Orions, you got mirror universe character, you've got a Section 31 thing, you got the black badge thing, and you've got a supposed trill, which is just all sorts of Star Trek stuff just shoved into a 2 minute sequence,
Mhm.
which is impressive. And I think that people are interested in that more so than some of the other crap that they shoved into Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say that so I've got a colleague at work. We talk a lot about Discovery because he's been following the season, and so he started off very very hype, and by the end of the season he had had enough of Discovery. So when I said, oh, they released this kind of deleted kind of secret scene, it's like an extra. He just kind of went ugh, and then just
Yeah, yeah.
like I'm over it. I don't care. He says, "Look, I'm waiting for season two. If season two steps up their game, then yeah. Other than that, he just doesn't." So this guy's not a Trekkie.
Yeah.
We as Trekkies will watch it. We'll live through it even if we hate it. Um, him as just a fan that happens to like sci-fi, but he's just a random audience member. He will watch Discovery if it is good, or if he deems it to be good, at least.
Yeah.
So, and that's how a lot of people are. I mean, you need to understand that there's a lot of shows coming out nowadays that have a lot of seasons, um, and people don't have time to watch everything.
Right.
So they
Right.
pick and choose. And a lot of people you'll find just drop after season one of miniseries or drop in the middle of whatever season, and they only carry on what they really do love.
For sure. And not to go off topic here on this video, uh, you know, there is a very distinct reason that CBS has not released the all access viewership ratings and numbers for Star Trek Discovery.
Hmm.
They do that for other shows on their streaming service. They only release the information to Nielsen for the two-part premiere, which was also happened to be broadcast on live TV, so those don't really count. Um, but there is a reason why they're not releasing those numbers. And like you just said, there's just so much content out there for people to watch and so many different ways to watch it that a show that's already pissed off Trekkies, that is essentially alienating their core audience, is hiding behind a $6 paywall with ads, and is being released on a weekly basis as opposed to binged out through one full season at a time. You're talking about a powder keg for disaster.
Yeah,
Um,
well, we need to start releasing CBS Section 31. Put Star Trek on the download, like for free or something.
for sure, for sure.
Start
Just kidding.
releasing just fan
Just
films, right? But
just fan films, right? Yeah, not actual CBS stuff. YouTube, don't demonetize my video. Uh, but we're not going to do anything illegal. But
no, absolutely not.
that's right. It's just but again, like I was saying earlier, like this scene, like just a simple scene like this, it causes a bit more hype than I was expecting.
Hmm.
From my side of people that I know, so people were interested in it. I'm sitting there saying, okay, even a couple people that I know from work that hadn't really watched too much Discovery, but saw this scene and they know what Section 31 is from Deep Space Nine, and
Hmm.
that interests them because it's like, oh, that's something that I kind of know. So I wanted to go ahead and maybe we'll transform this video a little bit more. Uh, when I was watching a Red Letter Media review of Star Wars the other day, they made a comment about how limited the universe of Star Wars is. Like, you can only have a Star Wars movie can only have X-wings and TIE fighters and Star Destroyers and Jedi and Sith and lightsaber fights, and that's all you can really have. You can do little things, but you got to have all
I,
those
I,
things.
I disagree right off the bat,
I
but
disagree too. I disagree too. But
lack of vision.
I agree. I agree with that. But my question to you was, do you think that Star Trek can only be a show about a crew with a ship doing away missions, and that's it? Like, it's got to have that element to it, and you can add things to it, but you can only have that. You can't have anything else. Do you believe that, or do you think that with the proper writing and care that a Star Trek show beyond that could exist?
Like, what interesting thing is, I recently asked this question on Twitter. I asked, would you watch a Star Trek movie that has no Starfleet, no Federation, no races that we know, just an alien race dealing with an alien issue? And most people said yes. A
Hmm.
few people said, Star Trek has to be the Federation, Star Trek has to be the Enterprise. Some people even said, um, no, I don't think so. And I think that every time something completely new or something completely out of the box comes out, it just proves that a little more. When we went away from ships and went to Deep Space Nine, it was a space station. Granted, it still is a crew working together,
Yep.
but it's a space station, and it proves that we don't need a ship. Um, I don't know. It's kind of like once Section 31 was integrated, I know a lot of people freaked out because they were like, "This isn't Gene Roddenberry's vision. Gene Roddenberry's vision is utopian and of like a united civilization." I would argue that Section 31 doesn't go against Gene Roddenberry's vision at all, because the United Federation of Planets and Starfleet still exists. This is just something else that kind of coexists, or like in a Hydra kind of way, is
Yep.
living in the shadows.
Yep.
And it doesn't take away from Gene Roddenberry's vision. Quite the contrary, it parallels it, mirrors it, and shows just how important it is to be united. And so integrating these new things, these new elements that aren't Star Trek, is what makes Star Trek even bigger. And so I think to say that you need to make a show that is only about a crew and a ship, or make a movie that is only about what we already know, limits Star Trek. And it's the same thing for Star Wars as well. I mean, you know, light versus dark all the time and what have you. Just, you can do. I don't know much about the Star Wars universe, but it's huge. There's many
Right.
planets, many things that you could do. And yeah, I think Star Trek's the same thing. You can do whatever you want, go wherever you want, whatever time.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think actually I think that the thing that was holding back Star Trek Discovery from doing even more out of the box kind of groundbreaking things is that they were still like somebody in the boardroom was still like, well, we got to have a ship and we got to have a crew and we got to have doing this and that. Like if you had removed some of those elements and like imagine like just imagine like the season like you could redo the entire season, just have the first two opening things, and then as Michael Burnham's going to her prison planet, she doesn't get picked up at a Discovery. She gets picked up by Section 31, and she operates as a Section 31 operative for the entire season.
Absolutely.
That's something different. That's something new, and that is like, and she integrates with crews, and she can do those different things. So you can kind of have those elements, but it's something new. I think that trying to mix old formula, which is the ship and the crew and the away missions, with the new formula, which is like heavy on the drama and this war and this conflict and these characters, I think is why the show landed flat because it didn't do well on either side. And I think they could have went more towards bizarre. I say bizarre, but more towards non-formulaic kind of
Yeah, no,
approach to Star
absolutely.
Trek.
Almost. I mean, one of the things that I loved the most about this season was the intensity of that scene when we got to the USS Glenn. Mangled bodies,
Yeah,
screeches in the distance, something that ripped Klingons to shreds. Like, what the hell's going on? And that just goes to show that you could make an amazing Star Trek. I'm gonna almost say horror movie or thriller movie, like a genre movie, um, based in the universe of Star Trek. And I mean, you could do anything with Star Trek. You could have there's that one planet on in Star Trek 5 where it's supposed to be some sort of diplomatic planet where Romulans and Klingons and Vulcans and everyone's supposed to get along. You could have a series take place on a planet like that and deal with the political stories.
yeah,
You could do something crazy like episode 1. You're following just a Starfleet officer on a shuttle, and something happens. He crash lands on a friggin' comet or something, and then you get like the first season of just him struggling on his comet, trying to get off it, and ends up someplace that he doesn't want to. Whatever. I mean, you could do anything
for sure.
that
Yeah,
that isn't
yeah,
what we've already seen.
yeah. I mean, I think that I don't know, and so this is my thing is like I'm still gonna continue to support Discovery because I know that CBS is never gonna relinquish the rights to any of those.
B'Elanna
Uh,
Torres and Tom Paris.
yeah,
Just have them on a planet with kids. But Tom Paris races some sort of awesome space vehicle, and B'Elanna Torres fixes it because she's the engineer,
yeah,
and just tell a story about how they win races and what have you, and have this planet kind of within the Federation, but have some sort of people that deal outside of the Federation laws, and maybe they have illegal gambling going on or whatever. You could do something like that. I mean, who doesn't want to see space vehicles race?
well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot
Not
of
not
different.
not not to take it to pod racing, but
Now this is pod racing, yeah. But yeah, I mean, yeah. There's so many different. I feel like we could have went down the anthology route with Star Trek. I know a lot of people were expecting that with the new season coming out. That's why I'm going to continue to support Discovery because
I
I
understand
believe
why they didn't do that though.
I
It
get
would
it too.
have been very expensive to do that. Build new sets
Yeah, yeah,
every season. I understand.
I get it
You
too.
know,
I get it.
this is the first time they're bringing Trek back in a long time. You maybe want to establish you want to establish you want to establish a baseline series. Like you have this ongoing series that you can maybe say that's going to go on for 7 years, and
Yeah,
then you can do these anthology series, or you can do these kind of mini series on the side.
yeah,
But that's what I would have made Discovery. I would have made the main series just a classic week to week exploration kind of thing.
yeah.
And then that's your baseline. And then from then on, you can do a mini series about the backstory of Khan or whatever you want to do. And then you can do like a mini series about how the USS Discovery and its spore drive never worked out. You can do all
Yeah,
these different ideas, but
yeah.
it has to work off this baseline.
You want to talk about a slam dunk series? Yeah, you mean the Eugenics Wars? Yeah, that's a slam dunk series. I'm pretty sure everyone's gonna watch that. Yeah, But maybe don't cast Benedict Cumberbatch as Khan. But yeah, that's a slam dunk series. But yeah, not
I
to
mean,
get this.
to be honest, they could have even done uh, uh, producers are scared that people get confused, but producers, people do not get confused. If you were to release a base series in the Prime timeline and say this is exploration, and then release like a kind of anthology or a mini series taking place in the Kelvin timeline, people will not have been confused. They would have been fine. You just state it. This is Kelvin timeline. This is Prime timeline.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
not related. People are fine. If people can understand the freaking Star Wars timeline, if Fast and Furious can make sense in the world we live in, then don't worry about it. I mean,
No, yeah, I agree. Uh, yeah. Anyways, we can sit here for hours talking about
we
what could have
can.
been, what could have been. But back circling back to the
That one
sequence,
scene.
that one scene. I do want to go ahead and say some final thoughts on it, which is as much disappointment as I had with the scene. Um, I was glad to see that at least somebody on staff said we need to have some kind of end to Empress Georgiou, and we need to touch base on those black badges that we had in episode 3. Even though I disagree with the fact that they were there in episode 3 to begin with, um, I do appreciate the fact that somebody on the writing staff said we can't just let that go to waste. We should use that in some way, shape, or form. And they attempted to kind of salvage both, like you said earlier, kind of both weak plot lines that kind of petered out and were left kind of dangling. They attempted to kind of curtail them both together. And yeah, so
This, this,
I can appreciate that. So go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. I mean, to I don't really know what to say. I've said everything.
Yeah.
That's about it. I was happy to see the scene, so I liked the scene, a lot more than you did. But I think it's a nice way to finish off the season, especially just from the production side of things, without thinking of what impact it has in universe. I like the idea of having these bonus kind of extra scenes that technically are part of the canon.
Yeah.
If this is the case, I don't know. But if this is really the case, if it is a secret scene that's part of the canon of the story, but that isn't part of an episode, I think it's awesome that they're doing that, because it is really groundbreaking. I've never really seen that in any, at least American produced TV series.
Yeah, I would say that the closest examples would be a few. I think of Battlestar Galactica and The Walking Dead. Fear of the Walking Dead, where they had like a 1 to 2 minute like episodes that they would release on the web, like
Yeah.
web things to kind of
They have mini series, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Walking Dead has that. They use that to like promote fear.
Yeah.
There's a character from one of those miniseries that ended up in Fear the Walking Dead for a while.
But the
So they
difference
do
is
that.
they're different. The reason why I agree and say that this is kind of trailblazing is the difference being that those sequences, like for Fear and even for the one for Battlestar Galactica that they did, I remember back in the day, they were just kind of like gee whiz. Like you could still go and watch the seasons and the show without ever having seen those, and it's just you don't
That's the
really
thing.
lose anything.
They're additional content for if you want to know about this,
Right.
or if you want to know about that, you can get it. This is different because this is kind of the transition between season 1 and season 2. It's
Yeah.
I suppose you're going to understand season 2 without seeing this scene, but this is part of the story.
Yeah, right, like,
This
I don't-
moment where Georgiou gets the badge,
Yeah.
whether she decides to join Section 31 or not, is an important moment, because that decision, refusing or accepting, is big.
For sure, and that's actually an interesting thing that you just mentioned. Kind of, not to drag out this conversation more, but the fact that I think are all assuming that she's going to accept the offer and that she's going to go become a Section 31 agent, but she could also decline it, which would be unexpected and rather interesting to see.
She could
like,
go to Starfleet and say, "Hey, do you guys know about this? You've got this going on."
Right. Or yeah, like if she comes across Michael Burnham, which of course that's going to happen again. You know, is she going to be like, yeah, and I was approached by these, like, and maybe she has it like the badge
Black
is like all,
Leatherman and
it's like all fucked up, you know, and she goes, I was approached by these guys, right, exactly, right, exactly. So, you know, yeah, I mean, that would be really interesting if she actually declined the offer. That would be actually be really interesting. That would be surprising. That would be like, wow, okay, so she, you know, she's trying to do her own thing. That would be, yeah, I could go on forever about that.
I'm expecting something along the lines of she accepts the offer, but she's trying to take over Section 31 for herself, you know, kind of without Section 31 knowing. So kind of Section 31 thinks they're using her, but she's using them kind of situation.
For sure, yeah. No,
very,
I
very,
agree.
very, very Khan in the Unspeakable movie. But
So, yeah, I agree with you there. So yeah, I mean, but so that's the thing is like this sequence isn't just a throwaway Gee Whiz extra content. Like, I feel like if you don't watch these scenes and understand what you're seeing, when you turn on season 2 when it premieres, you're not going to have any idea what the hell's going on. Because imagine if we hadn't really seen this scene and it wasn't very widespread across the internet, and we started Star Trek Discovery season 2, and Philippa Georgiou's running around with Section 31, you'd be like, what the hell is this? When did she get recruited?
well,
You know?
just have to kind of set it up in your mind like, oh, well, they just made her part of Section 31. And then we'd have something to complain about because we'd be like, well, I mean, that's a bit easy, isn't it?
Was that an impression of me just now? I don't know.
No, it's just an impression of us in general.
Yeah, all of us combined. That's it. I tell you, I say this show is ridiculous. Yeah, yeah. So
it's too much. It's too much.
It's too much. I say too much. Yeah. So, do you have any final thoughts on the show, on this little video?
Well, okay, so final thoughts on the show regarding this scene. I would say that I wanted the episodes to have kind of different time. How should I say this? Different lengths. I wanted some episodes to be longer, some episodes to be shorter, just depending on what kind of story they had to tell.
Yeah.
I felt like certain episodes they didn't need to drag out the story so much. A Planet Pavo episode could have been a lot shorter, for example, and then the finale they could have gone all out and really dived into some of the stories that they had going on and maybe enhanced the finale. So how that kind of ties back into what I'm saying about this scene is in a way kind of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an addition to the finale without like taking away or adding to it, because I don't know how you could take away from it, but yeah.
Okay.
So I like that idea of kind of adding little things, and maybe we will get more before season 2 comes out, and maybe this will be the opening scene before the first, like they roll the credits on season 2. Maybe this will, and we just saw it in advance.
Could be. Yeah, it really, really could be.
Maybe they're gonna use these as like flashback sequences throughout the season to show how it happened, why it happened.
That would be kind of cool. Yeah, I mean, again, like, we're not really sure what we can only speculate as to what year it is, just because of the fact that Christopher Pike is the captain of the Enterprise still, and based off of the beginning of season 1 where they gave us some star dates, and based off of how long, you know what I mean? Like, we can kind of speculate a little bit, and heck, based off how long they were in the Mirror Universe for, and how that's their time jump was. Like, you can kind of speculate a little bit, but it's like, who knows really how long, like you just said, a flashback sequence, who knows really how long, like, between Discovery returning to Earth, the award ceremony, and then meeting up with the Enterprise. We're assuming that that's happening around the same time as this sequence with Georgiou and the Section 31 operative.
I'm assuming it's during the same week or something, like it's...
They could actually be connected. If they wanted to really blow our minds, that could be setting up the crisis that caused the Enterprise to hail the Discovery to begin with, which would also explain necessarily why the Enterprise hailed the Discovery and a distress call, because they were looking for something happened with Georgiou on that ship, and they need their inputs or their assistance.
God damn. I mean?
That'd be pretty interesting, right?
What? No, this scene could be before, like, the end of season 1. before the award ceremony. Yeah, before Sarek talks to Burnham.
Right.
The scene could be long before that, or long. I mean, some sort of time before
Sometime,
that,
yeah,
and
sometime,
then
yeah.
Pike needs help because of Mustache Man and Georgiou.
Right. Correct.
Ooh,
Bullseye and Georgiou have jacked up his ship, and that's right. Bullseye and Georgiou are on the ship, and they jack
we've
stuff up.
built a black ship.
That's right. You know, and so that would be, and if they were, that would be crazy. Like the sequences that they release between now and the next season, where we pick up where we left off with the disgraceful of the Enterprise. That would be crazy if they were just releasing some tidbits
Mm.
that led up to why the Enterprise was hailing them. Because you got to think the Discovery, you know, was in battle, so it needed to go into, you know, the repair yard to get fixed.
Mm.
They probably had some research done on the spore drive for them to, you know, pull the technology and research what was going on with there. They needed to restock their crew because they probably lost quite a few people. You know,
Mm.
they needed to find a new captain. They needed to schedule their award ceremony. They needed to help rebuild Earth, you know, and be a part of that security detail. You know, so we're assuming that it
And
was a
that's
very
just
short.
one ship. The entire
Right.
freaking fleet's been destroyed, right?
Right. So they're not going to send off. They're not just going to, you know, the Discovery right away. You know, they're gonna need to help repair that because they need it on the forefront. You know, so we're assuming that it's a short period of time, but it could the end of the end of that. Yeah, I mean, it could be a few months. It could be a few months, and we could be seeing what happened with Georgiou and how she affected the Enterprise, and that's why they hailed the Discovery. That would be super
Which is a bold
freaking
move
cool.
because Discovery only takes place 10 years before the original series, and in like episode what was it, like 3, they already did like a 6 month time jump.
Yeah, so we're 9 years away
And
at this point. We are 9
and then
years.
they did another 9. Was it 9 months?
Yep, for
So
sure. Yeah,
they're doing
yeah.
some big jumps. They're getting awfully close.
Well, they are getting awfully close. But
But then,
that would be
I
cool
mean,
though.
okay, everyone's always assumed since that very first teaser that says 10 years before Kirk, you know, Kirk being captain, of course, but
Yep.
everyone's always assumed the show's going to take place in those 10 years before Kirk. It doesn't have to. Season 1 did. I mean,
Oh, right. Yeah. For sure.
they could just overlap completely and have this take place at the same time as the original series.
For sure. Yeah. They absolutely could. You know, I mean, they could easily. I mean, they could even do
I
time
wouldn't like it.
jumps. They could do. Yeah, I wouldn't like them to overlap with the original series either, because then they're gonna have a forced Kirk cameo. You know what I mean? And it's gonna
Oh,
be.
yeah.
Oh God, it's gonna be the worst. And they're gonna have like some young guy cast as Chekhov, and you know, it's just gonna be terrible. Don't. I'd rather not. But
Can't do that.
no, it'd be terrible.
By the way, Sam Bartolomeos, Connor,
Yeah,
he would have been a good Chekhov.
he would have been a good Chekhov.
But he's already Connor and he died.
And he died. I know. Yeah. Well, he died, and then he died, and then he died again, I believe.
And then he died again.
Right. He got stabbed in the fucking chest.
A good way to die twice.
That's right. That's right. It's a perfect way to die. But yeah. So yeah. I mean, we could definitely go beyond. We could do time jumps. We could do all sorts of stuff. This is Star Trek. One of the things that I've commented on in the past is the fact that we haven't seen any primordial beings yet in Discovery. We haven't seen them in a while, actually, since Voyager. So we're high time for a Q type, Organian type, you know, being to come in and kind of fuck with the crew and do something that they have to deal with. So
I'm gonna end this. Well, I'm not gonna end this, but I'm gonna say the Organians were an Enterprise.
So yes and no, because they were never specifically stated. It was only the writers that said that that's who they were implying as it was the
So
Organians.
in universe, it's not confirmed. That's what you're
In
saying.
universe, it's not confirmed, but
They are the Organians.
Yes, I believe that the full interview was like they intended, if the show had continued, they intended to use the Organians in their whole Archer was the man from the future subplot. So that was the whole thing. I don't know if you were tracking on that, but Archer was supposedly the guy that was helping the Suliban in the first season. He was
Yeah,
supposedly the guy that was
that mystery man that it
the
was never.
mystery man. Yeah, the mystery man was supposedly Archer, Admiral Archer, and they were going to use the Organians as part of that plot. Like they were going to be a part of that
Okay.
plot somehow. So yeah, the Star Trek season, yeah, Star Trek Enterprise season 5 that was never to be, unfortunately.
Well, 5, 6, and 7, I'm assuming, but
Yeah, well, yeah, right. So, but all right. So in the end, wrapping up this video, we've talked a lot about different things with Discovery, as it does. Uh, I would say that if anything, this scene that we discussed is very important and very powerful, and for us Trekkies is nothing if not importance. It is very important to
yeah,
us. So
yeah. Whether you like it or not, it has its place in the story, and it adds to it. It's not just a little something on the side.
for sure, I agree 100%. So yeah, again, if you guys have made it this far, which I'm sure nobody has, since we're about an hour, I'm sure everyone's turned us off by now. But if you have made it this far, be sure to go
This,
check out the scene. It's really good.
this is a
Um,
full blown podcast now, isn't it?
this
Full
is
blown
this is just a
episode.
full blown episode of yeah. This is the longest debate ever. Um, but yeah. Anyway, so for both myself, Ketwolski, and for Trek on the Tube, go ahead if you enjoyed this video. Please throw like and subscribes up on the YouTube channels for both of us, and then make sure you throw a comment down below. We are definitely curious to hear what your guys and gals' thoughts are on this scene.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? Are you agreeing with me, or do you agreeing with Sean? No. Um,
Boo!
boo. Yeah,
No, I mean,
boo.
let's face it. Everyone knows I'm right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so we're really curious to hear what you guys and gals think about this. So we hope that you guys enjoyed it. I want to go ahead and say thank you to Sean, aka Trek on the Tube, for participating today. Thank you for hanging out with me for so long. And with that being said, we will see all of you guys and gals next time. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies.